So when I came into this room earlier, I was so calm, and then I heard the essay of the other contestant, Ms. Lillian, and that's when I realized this is serious. So can we have a round of applause for all the beautiful Armenian ladies gracing us tonight? So Ms. Sarah told me to be very concise, but Ms. Sarah, I object. I should not start my essay without thanking you. Without you, my presence here would not be possible, and I'm immensely thankful for your support. Thank you so much. I went to primary school in Armenia of the early 2000s. The Soviet ideals of a teacher persisted. I was very intimidated by my teachers. I even thought that they never used the restroom. Years have passed since then. I attended numerous schools, lived on 3 continents, and crossed paths with some of the greatest educators. Although the intimidation has not disappeared, it has largely been replaced by admiration. The teacher I want to tell you about is the manifestation of such intimidating admiration. I had heard about her long before registering for her class. I asked other ex-Harvard professors about her. Even her name was magical. Mentioning it brought amazement and surprise to my advisors' faces. I received a response of Nancy Rosenblum, teaches at NYU, only half as many times as I heard she is the superstar of political theory. You should certainly take her class. As it usually follows in such storylines, I completely embarrassed myself during the first class. I expected it to be a huge lecture. As I entered the classroom, I realized that it was a small seminar of 24 students. I could not resist but share my excitement with Dr. Rosenblum, and her response was disheartening. "What did you expect?" she said, with her piercing eyes glaring at me. "It is a seminar. It's capped at 20. Seconds later, we started the class with introductions. When introducing myself, I put a particular accent on my surname. I want everyone to know that I am Armenian. I want them to associate me with the other Armenians they know. Still, Dr. Rosenblum didn't seem any interested. She simply wrote my name down and moved on. The second week of classes came and lecture went as usual. At the end, though, Dr. Rosenblum asked me to stay back for a few seconds. "Where are you from again? Gurgen?" she said. I straightened my spine and said, "I am Armenian." "Yes, but where in America are you from?" was the response. "No, I am from Yerevan. I am not American," was my reply. She did her best to cover her surprise. She completely failed. "Do you know Tatevosyan?" was the next question. Frankly, I got ashamed I did not know the celebrated author. Yet I was not surprised. Dr. Rosenblum hid one of the greatest insecurities of the Armenian nation, the divide the Soviet past and our history created between the diaspora and those living in our motherland. Later, I found out that my previous supervisor, Dr. Ruben Adalian of the Armenian National Institute, worked with Mr. Balakian. But a thought clogged my mind. Why did I, nor any of my friends from Yerevan, not know of the great Armenian author the professor knew? Instead of thinking much about the reasons, I decided to think about how, as a young Yerevansi, studying in the US, I can contribute to the exchange of ideas between the diaspora and Armenians living in our motherland. I was thinking of what can I take back home and share with my friends? What can I take the ideas? Which ideas can I take across the ocean, share with my friends and the future generations? Many thoughts crossed my mind, but the idea that changed my life came a few months later. As the semester went on, the deadline of filing taxes came closer, and as masterful theorists, Dr. Rosenblum assigned us to read David Thoreau's account on refusing to pay taxes. But a parallel idea was different. It was the one connecting the thoughts of the great American philosopher to the civil disobedience my brothers and sisters carried in Armenia. While during my reading before the class, I took a path of daydreaming about my future as a professor in the US. I had made this decision long before, but Dr. Rosenblum's lecture and the Thoreau readings added a new dimension to it. I started thinking about discussing Thoreau with some of the most promising people I know, my friends, the Armenian youth. This was the moment when I realized that I want to be a professor. And this is what I want to do with my future. But I want to study politics and teach in Armenia. Can you imagine discussing the ideas and duties we have as citizens with a group of students that took the streets for the prosperity of their motherland? What can be better than giving them tools that explain the values of freedom they manifest? I want to be their friend that has ideas to share. I want to introduce them to the American way of thinking about politics and how we can use them to create a better system with strong institutions in Armenia. I left home when I was 17. That was the first time when I traveled alone, without my parents. But a pursuit of knowledge is a motivation that has kept me going. Dr. Rosenblum, who I'm pretty sure learned a lot from Dr. Gregorian during her time at Brown, taught me an important lesson. She taught me why I should love freedom and why I should fight for it. But with her support, I went further and realized that my contribution will reach its peak significance if I go back to Armenia. She helped me realize that being Armenian from Yerevan is what makes me special. I can use my identity to connect the Western political thought to what Armenians do subconsciously. She changed my worldview and my future, the way I perceive myself as a thinker and how I want to change my community. I am still intimidated by her. But it is not because I'm scared, but rather because how much I admire her. She changed my life, and I hope to, perhaps, change that of the others. Honorable guests, in the early 1990s, after visiting the post-Soviet republics, Hungarian sociologist Elmer Hankish noted, the people of these states suddenly realized that in the coming years it would be decided who would be rich and who would be poor, who would have power and who would not, who would be able to found dynasties and whose children will suffer. When I was born, Armenia was a land with limited opportunities. Everything was monopolized. Even the brightest, most virtuous ideas were suppressed by the oligarchs and their dynasties. In the previous decade, the youth would look up to and idealize the sons and daughters of those making living through participating in corrupt schemes. They wanted to live that hedonistic life. But today, after the revolution, the ideals have changed. We, the post-Soviet generations, saw opportunities in doing what the sons of oligarchs did not. We learned to do what they could not. We saw education as the torch of enlightenment. Today, the children in Armenia do not aspire to be hooligans. They aspire to study in respected universities, become leaders in their fields, and contribute to our country. Thank you for trusting the Armenian youth, in Armenia or in the diaspora. We promise that together we will make the next decade the prosperous decade of our motherland. Thank you.